revealed how a heartwarming cleaner transformed a millionaire's life in 60 incredible seconds. Claire scrubbed the side of the luxury car with a manic intensity, focused solely on making it shine. For a moment, the world around her faded. But just as she took a step back to admire her work, her spray bottle slipped from her fingers, crashing to the ground and spraying liquid across the polished surface. The car belonged to Ethan, a man accustomed to perfection, flawless appearances, impeccable records. She felt the heat of embarrassment rise. Ethan stormed out of a nearby building, his expression twisted with pure fury. "You think you can just trample over my things?" he barked, eyes narrowing at her with a mix of disdain and disbelief. Nerves pricked at her skin, but all Claire could feel was a protective instinct for Jacob, her 10-year-old son. With a deep breath, she stood tall, refusing to be belittled. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll fix it." But her apology felt swallowed by his outrage, just another instance in a world where class often shaped how people saw one another. Days blended into nights for Claire, early morning coffees, endless scrubbing, and the sound of Jacob's laughter that warmed her heart. Every sacrifice she made was for his future, a better life, one where he wouldn't have to feel invisible. Still, Claire knew that in their suburban neighborhood, she was just a cleaning lady, and Ethan was a man built of privilege. At the community charity event that brought Ethan and Claire back together, tension buzzed in the air like static electricity. He loomed nearby, still wrestling with emotional strains from his own life, the ghosts of his estrangement from his father casting long shadows. As conversations swirled, an elderly neighbor collapsed, cries of panic erupted. In the chaos, Claire rushed forward, her instincts honed from years of tending to emergencies at home. With calm precision, she checked the woman's pulse, her hands steady as she instructed the onlookers to call for help. Amid the tumult, Claire became a beacon of strength, bright in the storm. Ethan stood frozen, witnessing a side of her he had dismissed only days prior. It struck him like a lightning bolt, her grit, her compassion, a quiet dignity that was hard-earned, not just innate. Just then, a pang of empathy gripped his chest. Could the divides he so easily accepted be broken down? Did strength even lie in wealth alone? Questions spilled forth in his mind, reshaping his understanding of worth. As paramedics arrived and the situation was under control, the crowd sighed with relief, and for a moment, time stopped. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Looking at Claire, Ethan felt a sudden connection that was hard to ignore. Her sacrifices, driven by love, mirrored the longing he felt for reconciliation with his father. He stepped closer. "Thank you," he started, words wavering. There was realization in his eyes. "Acceptance. Maybe I judged you too harshly." The air turned electric, buzzing with potential. Claire blinked. Hope flickered in her heart. Perhaps, just maybe, their worlds could collide to create something beautiful. But as they stood at that crossroads, with neighbors whispering in awe, secrets and judgments still simmered beneath the surface. Would this budding understanding blossom into something more? What path would they each choose? Claire's heart raced as Ethan stood before her, an unexpected warmth washing over her amid the tension. She took a steadying breath, feeling the gazes of their neighbors pierce through the moment. They were two worlds apart, and yet something had sparked. She began, but the words stumbled out like hesitant leaves falling from a tree. She could sense the curiosity and the judgment of onlookers surrounding them. But the urgency of his gratitude demanded a response, a desire to bridge the chasm between their lives. "You don't have to thank me. I just did what anyone would do." Ethan's lips curled into a small, unsure smile. "No, it was more than that. You showed a side of yourself I didn't expect. I reacted poorly. I guess. I didn't really see you." His eyes searched hers, a flicker of vulnerability shining through the veneer of the wealthy facade. Claire felt her defenses soften as she absorbed his words. They were two ships passing in a stormy sea, caught between currents yet somehow drawn to each other. A hand on her shoulder jolted her back into the now. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, her voice laden with awe. "That was remarkable, Claire. You really saved her." The woman's praise made Claire's cheeks heat up, but she could hardly bask in the glory. She was just doing what needed to be done, right? Before Claire could respond, Ethan's phone buzzed insistently against his side, drawing his attention. He pulled it out, the glow of the screen illuminating his face. She watched his expression shift as he read whatever was on the screen, the ease of their moment dissolving like mist in sunlight. I have to take this," he muttered, moving a few steps away, the connection snapping back into a tight string of obligation. Claire's heart sank. Just as quickly as he seemed to notice her, he was peeled away by the demands of his perfect life. The crowd began to disperse, the excitement of the moment dwindling into small conversations and laughter. Claire stood there, uncertainty rolling over her like waves. She glanced back at Jacob, who was chatting with some other children, their laughter infectious. Her heart ached with love for him, a love fierce enough to weather any storm. A little later, after the commotion died down, Claire decided to leave. She gathered her things and made her way to her car, the weight of the day heavy on her shoulders. Just as she reached the driver's door, she heard hurried footsteps behind her. "Claire." Ethan's voice cut through the evening air, urgent and filled with something she couldn't quite decipher. She turned, her breath hitching in her throat. He stood there, slightly out of breath, as a slight blush crept across his cheeks. "I wanted to apologize again for my reaction earlier." His sincerity pierced her, and she nodded. "And I should thank you for seeing me today, for treating me like a person, not just a cleaner." The words lingered between them, weighted with meaning. Claire could almost touch the fragile connection lingering in the air. But just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a reminder of her responsibilities, of home, of Jacob waiting. "I need to go," she whispered, fighting against the sudden rush of emotions that threatened to spill over. Claire held his gaze for an agonizing moment, feeling as if they were standing on the edge of something monumental. "Wait, we should talk," but Claire was already moving, driven by the love for her son and the fear of stepping too far into uncharted waters. As she drove away, Claire stole a glance in the rearview mirror. Ethan stood there, watching her leave. She felt a pang of regret, but also a flicker of hope. Was there a chance for something vivid between them? Yet, as she navigated the familiar streets, another thought gripped her. Was she ready for a change? A jolt of the unpredictable? Only time would tell. Claire parked in her driveway, the engine humming a comforting lullaby. She sat still for a moment, her heart still thumping from the encounter with Ethan. He was a world away from her, yet so close, just beyond the veil of social differences, intertwined with moments of unexpected truth. She shook her head to clear her thoughts, focusing on the here and now, the clutter of toys in the front yard and the soft sound of Jacob's laughter spilling from the backyard. "Mom, look what I made." His voice rang out, bright as the yellow sunshine filtering through the branches. Claire stepped out and made her way towards the backyard, the grip of her thoughts loosening with each step. She found Jacob surrounded by a group of neighborhood kids, proudly displaying a makeshift flag constructed from old fabric scraps, emblazoned with a colorful array of drawings. "Wow, that is amazing, sweetheart." She beamed, her worries melting away as she knelt beside him, ruffling his hair. She listened as he explained the meanings behind each color and stitch, his excitement bubbling over like a pot on the verge of boiling. But even as she smiled and nodded, a part of her was still standing at the curb, teasing her with the image of Ethan's gentle smile and the warmth of his gaze. Later that night, as Jacob drifted off to sleep, Claire found herself staring out of the window, the night wrapping around her like a thick blanket. The moon hung low, casting silvery shadows across the street. Questions swirled in her mind like autumn leaves caught in the wind. What did Ethan want from her? Was it a fleeting connection spurred by a moment of stress, or something deeper that could bridge the gap between their lives? She pulled her phone from her pocket, hesitating at the screen as she thumbed through her contacts, stopping at Ethan's name still fresh and undefined. Her heart raced again, but this time it was fear mingled with excitement. What would he think if she reached out? With a soft huff, she put the phone back down, reminding herself that life was complicated enough without adding billionaire dilemmas into her mix. The thought of all the what-ifs tormented her. Yet, she knew she couldn't keep running from this unexpected stir in her chest. The next morning, Claire stood in the kitchen, brewing her coffee with a mix of anticipation and self-doubt when the doorbell rang. It shattered her thoughts like glass. Jacob, still wrapped in his superhero pajamas, dashed to the door, squeaking, "I'll get it, Mom." As Claire followed behind, dread coiled in her stomach. What if it was another neighbor wanting to discuss yard work or school fundraisers? But when Jacob swung the door open, there stood Ethan, wearing a smile that sparkled in the morning light. There was a nervous edge to it, but it was real, filled with unspoken words. "Hi, Claire," he said, taking a moment to glance at Jacob, who was staring up at him wide-eyed. "Ethan," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. The normal rhythm of her pulse surged back, thrumming with the thrill of their last encounter, and the unresolved tension hung in the air thicker than fog. "Can we talk?" he asked, his eyes earnest, pulling her into his world with an invisible thread. She glanced back at Jacob, who had already started bouncing on his toes. Sure," she murmured, though her heart was a confusing whirlwind of excitement and trepidation. But before she could process what was happening, Jacob piped up, "Mom, can I go play with my friends?" "I'll be fine." Claire looked at Ethan again, and the breath caught in her throat. The door was wide open, and so were the possibilities that lay ahead. The connection they shared was palpable now, unmasked and raw. "We've got a lot to figure out, right?" Claire said, hoping to erase the cold distance she had built around herself. "I'd like that more than you know," Ethan replied, that same spark gleaming in his eyes, leaving Claire to wonder just how much their worlds could intertwine as they braced for the unfolding journey. As Ethan stepped over the threshold into her life, the weight of decisions descended heavily. What was going to happen next? Would their worlds truly collide, or was it all just a dream waiting to be shattered? The moment hung like a delicate glass ornament, swaying gently between them. Claire felt the energy crackle, a mix of curiosity and apprehension, as Ethan stepped into her home. It was strange yet familiar, like a song half remembered but still echoing in the corners of her mind. "Can we sit?" Ethan gestured toward the cozy living room, and she nodded, leading the way. Claire's heart thudded louder as they settled onto the couch, her mind racing. What were they going to talk about? Would it be business, life, or something deeper? "I'm glad you're open to this," Ethan began, his voice steady. "I know we don't know each other that well, but I felt a connection last night." Claire's breath caught. "Yeah, I felt it too," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "But this isn't typical for me. I mean, you're a billionaire, and I'm just what?" Ethan interrupted gently, leaning in closer. "A single mom with a loving heart who builds flags out of scraps?" He smiled, his eyes shining with sincerity. She chuckled despite herself, warmth spreading through her chest. "Yes, well, I guess that's true." Ethan leaned back slightly, his expression shifting. "I usually don't reach out to people like this. My life, it's a whirlwind of expectations. People are always after something. It feels isolating. But there was something real in that moment we shared." Claire could see the vulnerability just under the surface, and it drew her in like a moth to a flame. "I understand," she said slowly. "I really do. But I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" he prompted, his gaze never leaving hers. "Of it all," she replied, her voice trembling. "Of bringing someone new into my life, Jacob's life. You come from a different world, Ethan. What if it doesn't work out? What if we're just setting ourselves up for heartbreak?" Silence enveloped them, heavy but calm. Ethan reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring, and she felt a swirl of hope and fear clash within her. "I can't promise a perfect fairy tale, but I can promise I won't let you down without a fight," he said earnestly. "I want to know you, both of you." The sound of Jacob's laughter filtered through the house, a sweet reminder of her world, and Claire found herself torn between the fierce need to protect him and the unexpected pull of this man. "Listen, Claire," Ethan continued, his thumb stroking her knuckles softly. "I'm not just some guy in a suit. I'm Ethan," she interrupted gently. "I don't need to know your whole life story right now. I need to think. I want to do what's best for Jacob." "Of course," he agreed, his understanding deepening the bond between them. "But don't count me out so fast. I believe we could make something beautiful together if you give me a chance." She studied his face, the determination wrapped in kindness. "Rewarding," but risky exactly where she had found herself standing. The enormity of this moment pressed down on her, and she felt her walls trembling, the foundations of her carefully constructed life quaking. "Can we take this slow?" she finally asked, her heart aching with both fear and anticipation. "Absolutely," he replied, a smile breaking across his face that lit up the room. "Slow is good. It means we can build something strong." Just then, Jacob burst into the room, eyes gleaming with youthful exuberance. "Mom, can we go to the park?" he asked, bouncing on his heels. Claire glanced at Ethan and then back to her son. "Sure, buddy," she said, her voice full of affection. "Ethan, would you like to join us?" Jacob's innocent question hung in the air, less as a challenge and more as a bridge between their worlds. Claire felt her stomach twist. Would Ethan accept? Would he come into her life more permanently, or was it too soon? Just as she waited for his answer, a storm of emotions swirled around them, painting a future filled with uncertain but thrilling possibilities. Ethan looked at her, an unspoken understanding passing between them, and in that moment, Claire realized she was standing at the edge of a new beginning. "Absolutely," Ethan said with a wide grin, making Claire's heart race. As they moved toward the door, she wondered what the day would hold. What new memories would they create together? Would Jacob embrace Ethan? And would Claire find herself letting the walls down, ready to let someone in? But the biggest question lingered in her mind, echoing softly with the promise of change. Was she truly ready to take the leap? As they stepped out into the fresh air, sunshine bathing everything in golden warmth, Claire's heart beat a little faster. Jacob was practically bouncing, his excitement contagious. "Race you to the car?" he shouted, taking off down the path. Claire smiled, watching her son sprinting ahead, carefree and joyful, everything she wished for him. "Kids have a way of making everything seem brighter," Ethan said, his voice warm beside her. "Yeah," Claire replied, eyes still glued on Jacob. "He's a good kid." "I can see that," Ethan said, a hint of admiration in his tone. "How old is he?" "7, she said, turning to meet Ethan's gaze. "He likes superheroes and soccer, and ice cream way too much." "Who doesn't he?" Ethan grinned. "Ice cream is a universal language, after all." A light laughter escaped her lips. As they walked toward the park, the air felt charged. She didn't want to overthink things, but that was the nature of her mind, a constant whir of thoughts. What if Jacob didn't connect with Ethan? What if Ethan's world clashed with theirs? "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked cautiously, pausing for a moment. "I'm here, aren't I?" Ethan replied, a serious yet softening look in his eyes. "But if it feels off, I'll step back. This is about you and Jacob." She nodded, appreciating his honesty. They reached the playground, where Jacob was already climbing up the jungle gym like a pro. Ethan watched him, a small smile playing on his lips. In that instant, Claire felt a flicker of hope, mixed with uncertainty. Could he fit into their world? "Hey, Jacob," Ethan called, stepping closer to the playground. "Want me to help you make it to the top? A real superhero?" Jacob's face lit up, eyes wide with delight. "Absolutely," Ethan laughed, making his way to the bottom of the slide. Throughout the next hour, Claire observed Ethan as he interacted with Jacob. He was gentle, engaging, and genuinely interested. She watched in awe as Ethan offered Jacob a helping hand, lifted him up with laughter, and even joined in on the adventure of imaginary battles against invisible monsters. It brought a swelling warmth in Claire's chest. She could see how Jacob looked at him like an authority figure, a friend, and almost like a father, even if it was too soon to think of it that way. Yet, just as her heart began to embrace this budding connection, a sense of trepidation washed over her. What happened next was unexpected. A group of children started a game of tag, and Jacob, quick as a whip, ran off to join in. Claire's instincts kicked in as she wanted to follow, but then she looked at Ethan. "Are you okay?" He shrugged lightly, a hint of laughter in his eyes. "I've been tagged on million-dollar deals. A game of tag doesn't scare me." She couldn't help but smile, feeling a budding trust. But beneath that smile lay fear. The world of a billionaire was foreign, leaving her with lingering doubts. "What if this doesn't go as we hope?" she asked. "What if Jacob gets hurt emotionally or otherwise?" Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes steady as they locked onto hers. "Then we deal with it together. But I believe in giving life a shot, Claire. You don't want to live in what-ifs when there's a chance you could have something real. His words sank deep, igniting a myriad of emotions. Could she really take this risk? As the afternoon wore on, laughter cascaded around them. Little did they know, the playground held more than just carefree moments. It was a secret launching pad for Claire's heart, a place where the leap of faith was beginning to feel less daunting. But as Jacob suddenly darted over, a worried look on his face, Claire's sense of ease shattered. "Mom, I think I did something bad." Claire's heart raced. What happened? Ethan's supportive presence was a steadying force beside her, but the knot of worry in her stomach tightened. What had Jacob done? Before she could approach her son, a frightened kid appeared from behind the bushes, tears streaming, and all Claire could think was, could this be the moment everything changed? Claire knelt down, instinctively shielding Jacob from whatever was coming, her heart thudding like a drum. The child behind the bushes stood there, quivering. A dirt-smudged face and teardrops glistening like tiny gems under the sun made Claire's heart ache. "What's wrong?" Jacob asked, his innocent eyes wide. The kid sniffled, looking at Jacob with a mix of fear and hesitation. "I think I'm lost. I can't find my mom." "Oh no." The panic in Claire's chest felt like a vice tightening. She glanced at Jacob, who was crouching down, ready to comfort the boy. "It's okay," Jacob said softly. "We can help you find her. Right, Mom?" There was Jacob's goodness shining through like a beacon. But could she let him venture into this? As she looked between her son and Ethan, she saw Ethan step forward, his demeanor shifting from playful to serious. "Let us help him," he said, that gentle strength radiating from him like sunlight. But what if Claire began, freezing for a moment, her fears rushing back? This was the opportunity to test just how fragile their newfound connection was. Ethan must have read her thoughts, because he turned toward her and offered a warm smile, reassurance radiating off him. "It's okay, Claire. Kids need to learn this stuff. Plus, we'll be right here." She inhaled deeply, fighting against the urge to pull Jacob back to safety. This was a chance for him to step up, to be the brave hero he always dreamed of being. "All right," she said, her voice just above a whisper. "I'll keep you safe," Jacob promised the other boy. With newfound determination, he reached out his hand, and the lost child, still teary-eyed, took it cautiously. "Let us check the playground," Ethan suggested, his voice steady and clear as he led the way, keeping Claire close by. The three of them began to walk toward the swings, the younger boy looking around nervously while holding firmly to Jacob's small hand. Claire's heart raced, torn between pride and worry. Jacob wasn't just playing hero. He was stepping into a role that could change everything. Watching the two boys together, she could feel her protective instincts clawing at her, but the change unfolding before her was beautiful. Jacob's kindness was illuminating the muddy edges of uncertainty in her heart. "Do you know what your mom looks like?" Jacob asked the boy, who nodded vigorously, his hair falling over his eyes. "She has brown hair and a purple shirt," he managed to stutter despite his fear. "Okay, let us look for brown hair and purple shirts," Jacob exclaimed, his little face lighting up with determination. Claire caught Ethan's eye, and they exchanged a knowing look. This was a moment that could forge bonds. It was as if the air had shifted, woven with newfound possibilities. Suddenly, Claire heard a shout from the path. A woman with brown hair and a purple shirt was waving frantically. "Jason, over here." Claire's heart soared with relief, and she turned to Jacob, pride swelling inside her. "You did it. You found her," but before she could finish, Jason was off, sprinting toward the woman. Jacob looked back as if to check with her, and Claire nodded, unable to hide her smile. As the mother knelt down to snatch Jason into her arms, gratitude spilling over in waves, Claire felt a quiet moment of triumph. But as she looked at Ethan, tracing the lines of his confident grin, another wave of emotion hit her. What if this day was their turning point? What if it was more than just an afternoon at the park? "Have I told you how incredible you are?" Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan shrugged with a casual smile, though the warmth in his eyes told her he understood. But as Jacob came back, bright and excited, the noise shifted, a shout from another child echoed, and Claire's heart stopped again. "Watch out." She turned, just in time to see a soccer ball careening directly towards them, a total collision waiting to happen. Time slowed. Would this be the moment everything they built would shatter? Claire felt a jolt of fear shoot through her. She could see the soccer ball, a blazing blur against the vibrant green of the grass, heading straight for them. Jacob, caught in his excitement, barely had time to register the commotion before the impact happened. In a split second, Claire's instincts kicked in. She lunged forward, putting her body between Jacob and the ball. Time seemed to stretch as she braced for the collision. The ball slammed into her side with a thud that momentarily knocked the breath from her lungs. She stumbled but managed to steady herself, glancing back quickly at Jacob. "Are you okay?" she gasped, her heart racing. Jacob's wide-eyed surprise melted into a giggle, and Claire couldn't help but smile through the shock. "You saved me, Mom," he exclaimed, laughter bubbling over in the aftermath. Ethan rushed forward, concern etched on his face. "Are you all right, Claire? That was a close one." His eyes searched her face, filled with worry. "I'm fine," she assured, brushing off the moment with a wave of her hand, though the adrenaline still coursed through her veins. "Just a little winded." As she caught her breath, she noticed the kids nearby had gathered, tentatively approaching them. "Wow, that was awesome," one boy exclaimed, slapping Jacob on the back with admiration. The moment shifted now. It was Jacob who stood tall, proud of his mother's bravery, sharing in the thrill of the park's energy. Ethan remained close, a reassuring presence as they parted from the crowd, and while everyone resumed their play, Claire could sense a newfound connection hanging in the air between the three of them. "Looks like you've got yourself a bit of a hero in you," he said lightly to Jacob, ruffling his hair. "Yeah, my mom's a superhero." Jacob beamed, leaning against her leg. Claire's heart swelled at her son's innocent praise. But the laughter of the park faded as the little incident also reminded her of the fragility of their situation. Those moments of joy always seemed to come with a catch. After the excitement fizzled out, Ethan suggested they take a break. They found a shaded spot under an old maple tree, the leaves rustling gently in the breeze. Everything felt peaceful, but Claire knew it wouldn't last. She wasn't sure how events like today could change them, or if she could trust this new chapter of their lives. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said, her voice almost hesitant. "Of course," Ethan replied, leaning closer. "What happens when life gets tough again? When unpredictability reigns, and everything seems precarious?" He took a moment, his expression thoughtful. "We face it together. Just like you did with the soccer ball, you protect those you love. And I'll be right by your side." His words wrapped around her heart, filling the cracks with warmth. Relief washed over her, but a new tension lingered. Would they really be able to face the disarray of life as partners? Just then, Jacob jumped up, excitement bursting from him as he pointed toward the playground. "Can we go on the swings now? Please." Claire couldn't help but chuckle at his eagerness. "Sure, lead the way, brave hero." As they walked, hand in hand, she felt optimistic yet anxious about the path ahead. As they approached the swings, Claire realized there was still a flickering uncertainty in her heart. And just as they took a seat, a loud shriek pierced the air. A little girl had tripped and fallen, her cries echoing against the laughter around them. "Mom!" Jacob gasped, his instincts kicking into high gear again. Claire's heart sank. Would they be able to navigate this next challenge together? What if they couldn't? Would leaning on each other be enough for what was yet to come? Claire's instincts kicked in again, the protective side of her taking over as she felt the stir of anxiety wash over her. "It's okay, Jacob," she said soothingly, trying to steady him as they both rose from the swings. "Let us check it out." The crowd had gathered around the little girl, who sat on the ground with tears streaming down her face. Claire could see the girl's mother rushing to her side, scooping her up in a warm embrace. Her sobs echoed in the park, a sound that hit Claire squarely in the chest. "Mom, she's hurt," Jacob exclaimed, his wide eyes mirroring Claire's unspoken fears. It was a simple observation, yet the weight of those words made Claire's heart race even faster. "I know," Claire said softly, kneeling beside her son. "Sometimes people fall, and it can be really scary." A desire to comfort them both surged within her. Ethan stepped closer as the mother hugged her daughter tightly, whispering soft words of reassurance. "It's okay, honey. You're all right. You just stumbled." "We all fall sometimes," she cooed, her voice trembling but steady, filled with love and warmth. "Should we help?" Jacob asked, shifting his gaze from the scene to Claire's face, his cheeks a canvas for his concern. She hesitated, doubts creeping in again. If they approached, Would it only complicate things? Would they feel out of place? But then, she realized that sometimes, the smallest gestures carried the most weight. Yes, let us go over there, Claire decided. She helped Jacob stand, and together they walked toward the mother and daughter, with Ethan trailing closely behind. As they approached, Claire's heart swelled with empathy. The little girl had stopped crying but sniffled softly. Her tiny fists clenched as her mother rubbed her back lovingly. "You're strong, sweetheart," the mother reassured her, glancing up as Claire and Jacob neared. "Is she okay?" Jacob asked, his innocence shining through. The mother smiled through her concern. "She just tripped a little, but she is tough. Are you okay, sweet girl?" "Yeah," the girl whispered, giving a shaky nod, but clearly still upset. "Sometimes it hurts at first, but it gets better," Claire offered gently. She felt the familiar thread of connection weaving through them, a shared recognition of life's little tumbles. "I fell off my bike when I was little, and my mom told me the same thing." "Did it hurt?" the girl asked, her big eyes locked onto Claire's. "Oh, absolutely," Claire said with a soft chuckle, hoping to lighten the mood. "But then I got back on, and it taught me how to ride better. You'll see, you'll be back having fun in no time." Everyone's tension eased, replaced by the semblance of hope. The little girl managed a small smile, and Claire felt the warmth of connection spreading, something that surged and flowed with the empathy of parenthood. Jacob reached out his hand timidly. "I can help too." His innocence was disarming, and Claire admired his courage to extend kindness. The mother accepted Jacob's small gesture gratefully, as he knelt beside her daughter, offering a shy high five. "It's all right, let us be heroes together," Jacob said, and Claire's heart raced at his sweetness. As the little girl giggled for the first time, Claire breathed out, calming her own storm of worry. It was beautiful how the heart could heal and connect through acts of kindness, showing a resilience she hoped they could carry into their own lives. The moment felt suspended in time, softness wrapping around them like the leaves overhead. But it was fleeting, a reminder of how fragile these peaceful instances could be, and how easily laughter could twist back into tears. Just then, Claire noticed a shadow lingering at the edge of the crowd. An unfamiliar face, watching intently. The stranger's expression was unreadable, but an unsettling sense of recognition flickered somewhere in Claire's mind. As the joy surrounding them ebbed and swirled, Claire's heart raced once more. What did this stranger want? Would this be a moment of connection or confusion? The warmth of that shared experience sent waves through her, but caution tightened within, urging her to be wary. What lay beneath the surface? The little girl's laughter hung in the air, a beautiful balm to the anxious moments that had just passed. But that comfort was soon overshadowed by the stranger at the edge of the crowd. Claire couldn't shake the feeling that his gaze held a thread to her past, a knot ready to unravel at any time. Jacob's joyful exclamation pulled her back. "Look, Mom," she's smiling. "We did that." His bright eyes sparkled with a mix of pride and innocence. Claire smiled back, but her heart remained tangled with apprehension. "Yeah, buddy, we did," she said, ruffling his hair, but she kept glancing at the stranger. He was still there, lurking just beyond the group, his face partially obscured by a baseball cap pulled low. The laughter of the children grew louder, blending with the joyful chaos of the park. Yet, among the brightness, a shadow loomed just for Claire. She felt Ethan's hand gently squeeze her shoulder, bringing her back to the moment. "Claire," he said softly, his voice barely a whisper. "Are you okay? You seem a bit distracted." She nodded, but the unease gnawed at her heart. "I'm fine. Just thinking." "What about?" "Just that guy," she pointed subtly. Ethan turned his head, his expression shifting from casual interest to serious concern. "Do you know him?" he asked, brow furrowing. "No," Claire replied, her stomach twisting. "But I feel like I should." Ethan studied the stranger closely. "Let us not jump to conclusions. He might just be a passerby. You know how crowded the park gets." His attempt to soothe her was kind, but it didn't settle the storm brewing inside Claire. Before she could voice her worries, the stranger took a step closer, breaking through the crowd with a deliberate ease. Every step felt laden with significance, and Claire's heart raced as he closed the distance. "What if he's just looking for help?" Jacob chimed in, his innocent perspective a sharp contrast to Claire's anxious thoughts. "But what if Claire started," her voice trembling. "Mom." Jacob's tone was bright, a hint of joy breaking through their tension. Let us show him how to help too. Before she could respond, Jacob bounded forward, his kindness unwavering. It was as if he didn't see the stranger's mystery. Didn't he read the uneasiness that Claire felt in the air? Claire stood frozen for a heartbeat, torn between protecting her son and allowing him to embrace sympathy. Jacob, wait, she called, but he already approached the stranger, unguarded. The man's features were sharp, a mixture of determination and something softer hidden beneath the surface. As Jacob reached out with a wave, the stranger abruptly halted, hostility flickering in his eyes. But it softened the moment Jacob smiled, pure and earnest. Hi, I'm Jacob. Are you here to help? Claire held her breath, anxiety clawing at her insides. Ethan moved towards her, lowering his voice. Let us keep a close watch, just in case. The man's expression shifted as he looked down at Jacob, a flicker of recognition sparking in his gaze. I was just watching from a distance, he finally said, his voice steeped in hesitation. Claire took a bold step forward, her heart pounding. Why were you just watching? The stranger's eyes came alive, a flicker of surprise cutting through the anxiety. I wanted to see if he paused, searching for the right words, if people still cared. What do you mean? Claire pressed, her heart racing. His gaze fell, the weight of his words heavier than she expected. Sometimes it feels like the world forgets kindness. Jacob's head tilted. You can be a hero too. We can be heroes together. A silence hung between them, the air thick with unspoken answers and raw vulnerability. Claire felt the stranger's gaze dance between them, unraveling fear and revealing a raw humanity that seemed to echo her own experiences. But then, just as realizations began to dart around her mind, a sharp cry cut through the park, breaking the moment like glass shattering on the ground. It was the little girl, back on the ground, arms flailing as the world around her erupted into chaos again. All eyes turned. What happened? Claire exclaimed, heart racing once more. And in that instant, she couldn't ignore the chill of the stranger's presence beside her. What did he know? Could he help? Was he part of the chaos, or could he be someone they needed? The moment could shift again. All it took was a word, a secret, an action. What truth would reveal itself when the laughter faded? Claire's heart was racing as she moved instinctively towards the commotion. She could feel the weight of uncertainty thrumming in her veins. Just moments ago, everything had felt anchored in warmth and connection. Now, it was spiraling into chaos once more. As she and Jacob dashed toward the little girl, Ethan at her side, the stranger still lingered in the background, his eyes flickering between the unfolding scene and Claire. And just like that, the soothing comfort of the day faded into doubt. Jacob urged ahead. Mom, she needs help. His small voice rang with innocence and unwavering bravery. Claire felt pride swell within her, yet anxiety gnawed at her heart. They reached the girl, who was sitting on the ground, tears streaming down her face. It's okay. We're here, Claire soothed, kneeling beside her. The little girl looked up, confusion painted across her tiny features. What's wrong? Claire asked gently, wiping a few tears from the girl's cheeks. The mother appeared, panic etched into her face, rushing to scoop her child in her arms once again. She fell. The mother gasped, holding tightly to her daughter, who buried her face in her shoulder. Claire felt Jacob's tiny hand slip into hers, grounding her as he murmured, It's okay. You'll feel better soon. His bravery melted at least a bit of the tension in the surrounding crowd, Claire's heart softening as she watched him reach for the trembling little girl. Then she noticed the stranger, who had moved closer, his expression shifting to concern. Do you need help? He asked, his voice unsteady but sincere. Claire felt her jaw tighten. What do you know about it? She blurted, ready to shield her son. The man raised his hands as if to reassure her. I just wanted to make sure everyone is okay. I used to work in a hospital. I can help if you need me. The warmth of his words cut through her defensive instincts, but Claire hesitated. Is that true? From behind her, Ethan stepped forward, sensing the tension. His demeanor was calm, yet authoritative. If you can assist, let us figure this out together, he said, locking eyes with the stranger. The man nodded slowly. Yes, I can help. Just let me do my best. Swallowing hard, Claire glanced between Ethan and Jacob, both faces filled with courage and support. She took a deep breath and stepped aside. Okay, But please be gentle. She finally relented, her heart pounding against her chest. As the stranger knelt beside the little girl, Claire felt a strange sense of release. He spoke softly, trying to ease the girl's fear, running her through a simple routine to calm her breathing. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked. "Lila," she sniffed, peering from behind her mother's embrace. "Lila," he echoed, a smile breaking through his serious demeanor. "You're doing great, Lila. Now, how about we take a deep breath together?" Together, they inhaled slowly. Claire watched with her chest tight, her fears slowly receding as Lila began to relax. The stranger was connecting with her, drawing the girl out of her distress. The tension in the air began to dissipate, and the crowd that had gathered started to disperse. Claire felt the invisible thread connecting her to the stranger. "I can trust him, maybe." As Lila calmed, her mother began to thank the stranger profusely, gratitude spilling from her words. "Thank you. You helped her so much." But as Claire turned to look at Jacob, she felt him squeeze her hand tighter. "Mom, can we help him?" he asked, his brow furrowed with the weight of the world. The moment danced around them like sunlight filtering through trees. Claire's heart fluttered. This was what it meant to be part of a community, to lift one another when life got tough. "I think that's a great idea," she said softly, her eyes softening as she looked down at her son. "Let us see what we can do." The stranger stood, an open expression on his face, and for the first time, she saw not just fear but the glimmer of hope reflected in him. They shared a silent understanding, a connection that rooted them in their shared humanity. Jacob bounded forward, his enthusiasm contagious. "We're going to help everyone." That simple phrase broke through the barrier that Claire had built over the years, inciting an unwavering resolve within her. "Let us be heroes together," she echoed, feeling a newfound courage drawing from the core of her heart. As they approached the little girl together, Claire felt the remnants of doubt melt away. They stood hand in hand, three strangers reflecting strength and compassion. With smiles mixing in with the laughter that broke out again, the atmosphere shifted. It was like finding the light after wandering through the storm. In that moment, Claire glimpsed the possibility of a future that wasn't just filled with hurdles to leap over, but filled with shared victories even in the chaos of life. They weren't just individuals navigating their wounds. They were something greater, a community, a family. Ethan's presence solidified that realization, and Claire felt the warmth of something new emerging between them. As they walked away from the scene together, hand in hand, Claire dared to believe. She didn't just feel as if she was standing at the edge of fear anymore. She felt as if she were breathing in a future of light, ready to embrace whatever came next. This was their moment, and she refused to let it slip away. Now, the turn had begun, and as they stepped forward, Claire's heart fluttered in sync with the hope blooming within her. "Let us continue being wonderful," she smiled as she glanced at Jacob, then turned to Ethan, who returned the look with every promise painted in his warm gaze. If they could weather the storms together, maybe they could shine even brighter on the other side. The possibilities were endless, and it was time to embrace them fully. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us make a positive change.